In the last video, you built your first machine learning model using less than 15 lines of code. That was the aha moment. Today we're going from aha to oh damn, I can automate all of this. Now we skipped data prep last time because I wanted to show you that machine learning isn't some untamed beast. But here's the truth. In real life, data prep is where 80% of your time goes. And if you mess it up, your model is just throwing darts in the dark. So today I'll show you how to pull live market data using MetaTrader 5, clean and prep it using pandas, calculate powerful technical indicators with one line of code, and export the final output all automatically. But here's the twist. This video isn't a passive sit back and watch thing. I've broken it into mini challenges for you to complete before moving on. So by the end, you would have actually done it yourself. And that's not all. I'll also share what to do when you're stuck, my personal cheat sheets, and how to use GenAI as your last resort coding sidekick. So with no more shenanigans, let's begin. Alright, let's fire up the machine. First class is to get real market data straight from MetaTrader into Python. For that, we will need two libraries, MetaTrader and Pandas. Now, MetaTrader library makes a connection to MetaTrader and fetches data. And the Pandas library is sort of like a two-dimensional Excel sheet within Python, which we had already discussed in the last video. So let me import both the libraries. Now, one important thing to mention here is that when I import MetaTrader 5 as empty, it means that wherever I mention empty in my code, it means that I'm referring to MetaTrader 5. Similarly, wherever I mention PD, that means I'm referring to Pandas. In the next step, we will connect to MetaTrader. Now here, my MetaTrader is installed at this address, and I'm saving the value in the terminal address. In the next step, I am using the command empty.initialize. Now again, this empty refers to the MetaTrader library, and I am asking MetaTrader to initialize the MetaTrader which is installed at this terminal address. Now of course, you will change the terminal address to wherever your MetaTrader is located. Now the value of this initialize function will be stored in connect variable, and it will either return a true or a false depending on whether the connection was successful or was it not successful. Then I am printing the value of connect, so it will either print a true or a false. And then I'm printing some additional terminal info, which is not required, but just for the sake of it. So now I'll press the run button. And as you can see, the connection has been successfully established and it has pasted some terminal info here. Now the real fun. So now that we've connected to MetaTrader, we will try to fetch data. The currency pair that I want to fetch the data for is Euro GBP, and I want to bring the last 30,000 candles. Now we have a MetaTrader function, copy rates from POS, and it needs 4 variables. And what it does is that it brings all the data from MetaTrader right into Python. So the inputs that it needs, the first one is currency pair. So we are telling it that we need data for Euro GBP. We are assigning a 1 hour time frame. So it will be bringing data or fetching data for 1 hour time frame for the last 30,000 candles. Next variable is the starting index, and a value of 0 here means that we want to bring or fetch the latest values. If it was -5, it will leave the first or most recent 5 candles and bring the data for the remaining candles. Now the last variable is count, which means that how many bars of data or candles of data do you need. We have already specified that as 30,000. Once this data is fetched, it will be stored in a variable called rates, but we will take that variable and convert it into a pandas data frame. Again, the two-dimensional Excel sheet, and we will actually see it here. Once that is done, we will specify the columns that we want to keep. In fact, let me remove these 2 lines for now, run it and show you what it originally looks like, and then we will decide which columns we want to keep. Now let's go and see what our data frame DF looks like. Now as you can see, our data frame has multiple columns. First one is time, then opening, value, high, low, close, tick volume, spread, and real volume. The last 2 columns I actually don't need, so I will just remove them and I will add the remaining 2 lines of code. So I'm keeping the other 5 columns and removing the 2 columns that I don't need. And then I'm converting this time as you can see here, into a datetime, pandas datetime value. Right now, it's not in a format that pandas can consume. So this one will convert it into a datetime. So let me run this again. And now when we come back here, let's refresh the data. You will see that time has been converted into a time variable, and the two columns, extra columns that we did not need, have been eliminated. So kudos, you just pulled live data from MetaTrader terminal. No more CSVs, you're operating in real time now. Challenge 1 completed. Now let's give our data some brains, technical indicators. For that, I will use Python's TA library, and TA stands for technical analysis. So let me import the TA library. And now I will calculate 3 indicators, and I'm just calculating 3. You can calculate as many as you want, but I'm calculating EMA 20, EMA 200, and RSI 14. And as you can see, each indicator can be calculated with just one line of code. All you have to do is specify the parameters for that particular indicator. So for example, for EMA 20, you need to specify the closing value. So we will say close equals DF column close, and DF is the data frame in which we are holding the value of close. Now if I go here, you can see DF, I'm talking about this data frame, and we're referring to this close value. And window equals 20 means that we're calculating it for 20 periods. The same logic applies for EMA 200 and for RSI 14. So let's run this and see what happens. Now, ideally, these 3 columns should now be added to the DF. So if I go to the DF and refresh the data, you will see that the 3 columns EMA 20, EMA 200 and RSI 14 have been added to the column. Now, I know that it's not possible for you to remember the syntax of God knows how many technical indicators, which is why I've calculated a cheat sheet for you. This cheat sheet I've taken from the documentation of TA library and condensed it into the most important information. Now, as you can see, for any indicator, let's say if you're working with Awesome Oscillator, you can use this function in blue color, just copy paste it as it is, and use these values or specify these values: the high value of your data frame, the low value of your data frame, the short period, the long period, and fillna means if you want to fill NaN values with something, you can specify here. And for example, when you're specifying high, you will just refer to the high column in the data frame. For example, you will just refer to this high column. So the formula for that would be TF, and in quotes, you will just have high here. I will share this cheat sheet with you. It has almost all the important formulas, including the ones that I'm using in my calculations. So challenge 2 completed. You just calculated 3 technical indicators with 3 lines of code. Imagine if you were to calculate RSI values in Excel, how long it could take you. Plus, there will be a high chance of making mistakes. Now, you can't just toss data into a model and hope it sticks. Let's prep it like a pro. Now, if you remember in my last video, I just used the 3 technical indicators to predict the value of the next closing price. So I will just stick to the same pattern. The only difference is that this time we're fetching the data through MetaTrader and cleaning it ourselves rather than using a CSV like last time. Rest of the logic remains the same. So the first thing I want to do is drop all the columns that we don't need. So again, we will just need the 3 indicators and the closing price. So I will run this, go to my DF, refresh data, and you will see that now I have just the 4 columns that I need. But notice that we have missing values in EMA 20, EMA 200 and RSI 14. And why is that? Because to calculate EMA 20, first it needs 20 values. Similarly for EMA 200, it needs 200 values. So what we will do is we will just remove the first 200 lines so that we have data available for the entire series. Now here I am dropping all the values after 200. So this column indicates after 200. I will run it and the first 200 records of data would be removed. And now if we go back and refresh the data, you will see that we have values for all the data. But we still need to reindex it. So let's go back and reindex it. Here, all I'm doing is just reindexing. When I run the code, go back and refresh data, now the index has been reset to 0. Now it's vital to mention here that it's not just these 5-6 steps that I want to teach you. I want to give you a handbook or a guideline for how you can do any type of data cleaning, data manipulation by yourself. For that, I will give you 2 tools at the end of this challenge. But for now, let's continue. So the next change that we want to make in this data is that we want to bring the closing price, or we want to shift the closing price up by 1. Why? Because our intention is to predict the closing price of the next period, not the current period. So for these 3 indicators values, this closing price corresponds to the same closing period, whereas we want to predict the next closing price. So I will simply shift the close column up by 1 and rename it from close to next close. Let's do that. First, I shift all the values up by 1. Then I rename the close column to next close. Now let me go back, refresh the data, and you will notice that the price has shifted up by 1 record. Now, because we've shifted the value up by 1 record, the last record will now be empty. So if I arrange it in descending order, you will notice that the last value is missing and we need to get rid of this value. So let me go here, delete the last row, run it again, and then go back here and refresh the data. Now you can see that we have no missing values, neither at the bottom nor at the top. Now the important bit. Now I know that you're thinking that, hey, these are these 5-6 operations, Vajad, that you have performed. But how do I know? There can be a gazillion operations that I might have to perform on my data. What do I do there? For that, I'm giving you 2 tools. The first one is a cheat sheet. Now, this is a Pandas cheat sheet because for the most part, you will be working with Pandas. As I mentioned, Pandas is like a 2-dimensional Excel sheet within Excel, and it's good enough for most of the operations that you perform. And the formulas that I've used, I've highlighted them in orange color. For example, we use the rename formula. In that one, all you have to do is write the same function and write the name of the old column here and the name of the new column. Or for example, we used in reset index function. Similarly, we dropped a few columns. When you want to drop columns, you just use df.drop and then specify the columns here, which are mentioned in the call. So that's tool number 1. But I know even this is not going to be enough. Because 1, this is just Pandas cheat sheet. You might have to work with other libraries like NumPy or other. So the final tool that you should have at your disposal is ChatGPT. So if I go to ChatGPT and I ask a simple question like, hi ChatGPT, I have a data frame in Pandas with 4 columns and I've specified the names of the columns. How do I drop RSI 14 column? You ask ChatGPT this question and you simply get the code. And it has given 2 outputs. So for example, you don't know what is in place. You just go and ask ChatGPT, what does in place equals true do? And it will tell you role of in place is to determine whether you want to make the changes directly to the original data frame or if you want to create a new one. You can use it for other functions such as how do I reset the index of a data frame. And it will give you the answer. So this is a tool that can be very helpful for you, and I will talk a lot more about it towards the end of my video because this is an emerging field and there's a lot that is going on, from prompt engineering to AI workflows to AI agents, etc. And I think today it's less important to know how to code and more important, to know how to use engines like ChatGPT to make them code for you. So I hope now you'll feel confident cleaning and preparing the data yourself. For today's exercise, challenge 3 is done. Now your data is clean and lean. It's time to split it into training and test data. Now I covered the logic of splitting the data into training and test data in the last video, but I will briefly mention it here again. The reason we don't want to give all the data to the model for training is because we want to save some data for it to perform its testing. So for example, if you have 100 rows of data, it's better to train your model on the first 80 rows and save the remaining 20 rows. And once the model is trained, then it will look at those remaining 20 rows and evaluate itself on whether it's performing well or not. So let's turn our attention to splitting the data. Now, as a general rule of thumb, it's recommended to keep 80% of the data for training and the remaining 20% for testing. So I am defining the training percentage as 0.8 or 80% here. In the next step, I am first calculating the total number of rows that are there in our data set or in our data frame. So we had roughly 30,000 candles and we removed about 200. So it should be somewhere around 29,800. In fact, if I go to DF here, I can see that the total number of rows are 29,798. So that value will get stored in num rows. Now I will multiply this number with 0.8, which I have defined here, and save it as the number of data required for training. So that will be 80% of the rows. And the remaining 20% will become part of testing data. And I'm just converting them into integer in the end, so we don't have decimal values. Now let me run this code. And if I scroll down here, you can see that the total number of rows the value is stored is 29,798, which we had seen earlier. And then roughly 5,960 rows are saved for testing, and the remaining roughly 24,000 will be used for training the data. Okay, so until this point, all we've done is created two variables, and in each of the two variables, we just know how many rows of data is going to be there. But we haven't actually created those data frames. This is just a variable that holds this value. So now let's actually create data frames for training and test data. So let me run this. And now let me show you the two data frames. The test data, which contains 5,960 rows, and the training data, which contains the 24,000 rows of data. So now this is the test data. As you can see, it contains values after row roughly 24,000. And then if we want to look at the training data, let me also open that one. And here you can see that it has all the values from row 0 all the way till 23,000 something, 23,837. So now we have successfully split our data into training data and test data. Training data contains about 80% rows from the top, and test data bottom 20%. Now we had already trained the model last time using the same logic, so I'm going to quickly go over it again, but very briefly. So for training data, we are defining variable x and variable y, and again, this I explained a lot in the previous video, so please refer to that if you haven't watched it. In the training data, I'm defining x variables as everything other than the next close price, and y variable, which needs to be predictive, is itself the next close price. And similarly for test data. Now, I will use the XGBoost model, and I think I haven't imported the library, so let me also import XGBoost library, which I will just add here. And it will do 500 rounds of boosting and show the results here. So let's go. As you can see, it has trained itself and has given us the root mean squared error for the model after each boosting round. And if we scroll down all the way, it has done 499 rounds, which is 500 because the first one was 0, and completed the training. Now, at this point, as I mentioned earlier, let's not worry about the results. We will gradually move towards building a profitable and successful trading strategy using machine learning. But for now, our intention was to move just one step forward. Now, if you want to look what the model has predicted, you can use this line of code and the predicted values will be stored in this variable. So let me run it and add it to the test dataset. So now I am adding a new column predicted close in the test data, and I'm adding the predicted values to that dataset. And after that, I'm just exporting the dataset. As you can see, I will export it to a CSV file, and you can specify the location here. So let me run it. And if I go to the test data now, you will see that there was an actual next close price, and now we have a predicted close price, and you can compare these two 0.8414 versus 0.8425. So at this point, as I mentioned, let's not worry about the accuracy. The intention was to take you one step forward from the last video. So in the first video, we learned how to create your first machine learning model, skipping the data prep and using CSV file. In this one, we added data prep and gave you enough tools so you can do the data preparation on your own. In subsequent videos, we will cover feature engineering, overfitting, underfitting, different types of machine learning model, hyperparameter tuning, ensemble models, and whatnot. Before we wrap up today, I've got one last bonus challenge for you. Use ChatGPT or any other Gen AI tool of your choosing to figure out how to create a new column in our Pandas data frame, which calculates the difference between next close and predicted close, and post the code in the comments. Now, you might think that's such a small challenge, but actually it's massive, because this is the future. Not just writing code, not just trading, but knowing how to ask. This skill is more important today than any trading strategy, any single line of code you'll ever write, and honestly, anything else you might learn this year. Sure, I can teach you algo trading, but why rely on me when there's something much smarter you can use? Instead of just giving you a fish, I'd rather teach you how to fish. That's why I'm starting a new series focused on truly mastering Gen AI. Not in the hype-filled, buzzwordy way you see everywhere online, but in a way that shows you how to really use it. Experts say AI will be smarter than any human by 2030. Up to 80% of the jobs could be replaced or radically transformed by AI. That's not science fiction, that's not decades away, that's the next 5 years. So the question is, will you be replaced by AI? Or will you be the person who knows how to use it to multiply your output, your income, and your impact? Because the truth is, AI won't eliminate all jobs. It will just eliminate the people who don't know how to use it. And you don't need to learn programming languages anymore to make use of AI. It's about learning to talk to AI so it can do the job for you. This is a total shift. This new series is about helping you make that shift. Future belongs to the AI generalist, not a coder, not a data scientist, but someone who knows how to apply AI tool in any context. Someone who sees a problem and immediately thinks, how do I automate this? How do I scale it? That is the skill of the decade. And in my new series, I'll teach you exactly how to develop that skill. We'll skip the fluff and focus on action, learning prompt engineering, building workflows, and creating AI agents that transform your ideas into practical solutions. That's how you become the AI generalist the future needs. So please post the answer to the challenge in the comments. I'll give a heart to everyone who attempts it. See you in the next video. May your code always be clean, your charts green, and your profits supreme. Bye-bye.